Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Dendi Narendro, and at this opportunity, I will deliver my research proposal information. And my research proposal title is "The English Department Students' Perspective in a Synchronous Learning Experience at Universitas Muhammadiyah Surakarta." The reason why I took this title is because since March 2020, Indonesia was contract COVID-19 virus and becoming a massive plague and spread to entire country. For the reason that the effect of COVID-19 pandemic, the government issues a decision, limitation of each personal activity. Every personnel is prohibited to attend a meeting. To avoid the deployment of COVID-19, deployment of COVID-19 is difficult to be analyzed. It can be contracting from direct physical contact between each personnel. The government also issued always wear a mask movement, work from home, and learning from home. By the decision of the government, the student need to learning from home, and every learning process is to be attended from home. And with a new manner of learning process, each of learners and the teacher need to adapting with this process. Synchronous learning method is used by the teacher in the learning process. Synchronous learning means the process of learning in real time with facilitation of direct instruction and done with schedule. Synchronous learning is using the advantage of electronic, especially is computer with an internet platform support. With the internet support, learning environment can be increased. By the using of the new learning process environment, I decided to learn or to study how the student reaction on learning process, on that new learning process system or process. And now it's the problem statement. How does the student react after the implementation of synchronous learning at Universitas Muhammadiyah Surakarta? Now it's research method. In this research, the writer take a certain procedure covering 7 components. There are type of the research, setting of the research, and object and subject of the research, and then data and data search, technique of collecting data, technique of analyzing data, and data validity. And now the first is type of the research. The researcher take a concept of descriptive qualitative research. This research focusing on data search of student perception using synchronous learning. Difference new learning environment with an online learning method is become a main important data in this research to know student perception after the effect of using synchronous learning. And now is setting of the research. The researcher attend a study at Universitas Muhammadiyah Surakarta aimed the student department of English education. And now object and subject of the research. Object of this research is the perspective in a synchronous learning experience, while the subject of this kind of research are students of English department students, Universitas Muhammadiyah Surakarta, who become the main data research of this research. And the next is data and data sources. The primary data of this research can be collected from direct interview with Department of English Education Universitas Muhammadiyah Surakarta students in academic level of 8 semester. Secondary data can be achieved from the previous study as a journal with a suitable for this research with a suitable data for this research. And the researcher also take information about theoretical data from journal, previous data which has similarity or needs of this kind of research. In this study, data are obtained from various sources using various data collection techniques and carried out continuously until the data was saturated. And then the researcher using the technique, the first is interview. An interview carried out to get the main data. The writer interview selected Department of English Education student in a level of 8 semester. The researcher selected Department of English Education student who were facing synchronous learning effect for almost current time of 1 year on learning process. The researcher want to collect data of student perception and the student experience in synchronous learning in almost 1 year time of learning process. And then the researcher conduct an observation. The aim of the observation is to gather information about the student's perspective on synchronous learning. Through observation, the researcher learned about action and the context attached to certain behaviors. As the result, the researcher learned about the action and its context by observing it. The aim of this observation is to improve student perception of the synchronous learning process. And then the last technique is questionnaire. The writer used this questionnaire instrument to provide a survey to explore the student knowledge and interest about speaking, and as supporting data to get the validity of data of student perspective in using synchronous learning. And the last is technique for analyzing data. The researcher is using analyzing data technique from Bogdan and Picklin. The first is the researcher decided kind of research technique, and then the researcher performed observation and received data from student of English department at Universitas Muhammadiyah Surakarta. And then the second step is the researcher conduct an analytic question about student perspective in using synchronous learning as a learning process method. And then the third is the next step is the researcher arrange collecting data action after attained observation. And then the next step, the researcher make a questionnaire about concept for student of English department Universitas Muhammadiyah Surakarta. And then the last step is the validity of the data applied by the writer to check the correctness of the resulting data in order to obtain valid data and be account for its validity using triangulation technique. Triangulation is a technique of comparing data that has been obtained in the interview process with data obtained from observation. In other words, this process is carried out to compare what people say in public and what the people say in private. Said in situation with being said all the time, the result of interview with relevant document content. Triangulation is a technique that is done by checking data to the same source but in different ways or technique. Thank you for your time, and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.